so you don't have to lean.
You are listening to the Caffeinated Christian Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Willert, and I'm sitting here with Pastor Mike Rigglesworth, and Bradley, the man with no last name, is still at work, not on the board. He's going to join us halfway through.
He's on his way.
He's on his way, but we have two guests for you today. But before we go and introduce them both, let's do a little shout out to the coffee that
1.5
we
guests.
are drinking. 1.5, yeah. They just kind of find each other. So we are drinking, we kind of went back into the stock of coffee because, yeah, we are drinking Orange Cat coffee from Lewiston, New York.
Oh,
Yeah, Blake knows
Very
what it is.
nice. Yeah.
great
Very,
locale.
very good. It's actually our Christmas blend that we got, Winter Wonderland. It's still going strong. So technically, well, no, I was going to say June, but July is Christmas in July, right?
It's true. We're a little bit early.
A little bit early,
for that.
but I wanted to use it up. We finally used it up. And if you want to go find out more information, you have to go to their Facebook. They do not have a website, but it's Orange Cat Coffee in Lewiston, New York.
Scrumptious.
Exactly. So, everyone, we have 1.5 guests, I should say, for you. And one of them is a repeat guest with us. So I'm going to go ahead and first introduce Stephen Mannion. Pastor Stephen Mannion is back for today's episode. Everyone in their car, you better be shouting, honking your horn.
Do we have a crowd sound or something? I think we do.
I don't know. I'm going to push the wrong button.
might hit
How
something.
dare
Just push a button, see what happens. Just
Let's see. Of
There.
course, that's what I get. Stephen Mannion's back. How dare you?
this is Bradley's fault.
Grita.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like a listener's an explanation. I'm only here for one episode, but see, I really felt a call to go to on the mission field to some place where no one has ever been and to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. Antarctica.
Wow.
There has never been a missionary that I know of that's ever gone to Antarctica to reach the lost there.
The Lost Penguins.
So that's where I've been on my. You don't believe me, do you?
Yeah, I did.
You're staring so intently right now.
To like the one person that lives there.
No, and then I was thinking,
And then after today, I will go back to Antarctica to reach that settlement of 6 people,
Yeah.
scientists.
They try to kill him when
I
he first
actually
arrived.
believed you.
So we have Pastor
awesome.
Stephen Mannion back for this episode, and we'll explain why in a second. But our second guest is none other, he was on a podcast originally, than our buddy, Blake Zaccanino.
Esquire.
Let me do a little bio for him. Blake Zaccanino is a top-rated attorney practicing in Hamburg, New York. Providing legal representation in New York for a variety of different issues, Blake was selected as an attorney to the Rising Stars of 2019 to 2021. Are you getting another one this year?
I think so, but I think you.
Best dressed.
Oh, thank you. I think once you get it once, you're just grandfathered in.
Oh, okay, perfect. It's almost like that golf. What is it? The
you
Masters.
can't-
You get that coat.
So you can't win it twice?
No, I think it's just automatic every time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, well, after completing his undergraduate studies at Canisius College, Blake went on to attend law school and was enrolled at University at Buffalo Law School, SUNY. He earned a Juris Doctorate degree in 2015 and was admitted to the practice of law in 2016. He works at the law offices of Shaw & Shaw PC with his father and brother. Shout out to Mr. Zaccanino out there. He is married to his wife Stella, and they not expecting anymore. They had their first child, LG Leonard George Zaccanino.
Baby Lenny.
So please welcome Blake Zaccanino to the Caffeinated
hit a
Christian
button,
Podcast.
see what happens.
Hit a random button.
All right. How about this one?
Oh no!
This guy again.
So Blake, how are you doing
I
today?
swear I don't know how these buttons work. Okay.
I'm doing
Bradley's not here.
No, I'm doing great. I've been wanting to come back on for a while, and I know right before, I don't know if it was right after the holidays, I reached out to Ryan and I said, okay, I can get the audio book. I see it. Let me do it. And I actually thought that it was going to take me a while to get through, but it was really quick. And I found myself not wanting to stop. I mean, I was in my park in my garage for an hour when I'm
Nice.
home just listening to it because I
Just didn't want to see Stella. He didn't want to change diapers. That's why. But so let me clarify what he meant by audiobook. Stephen had a fantastic idea, and this is another reason why he's here
I'm good for one good idea a year.
Yes.
for this.
one.
He wanted to take the book Case for Christ by Lee Strobel. It was a journalist who investigated the resurrection of Jesus, or
As an atheist.
as an atheist, and wanted to disprove it, and came to believing in Christianity. We wanted to toss that book into Blake's lap and take it from a different perspective, from someone who practices law. I know we talked about when it comes to what makes evidence. Last time you came on, it was a very fascinating topic, and we learned a lot of things. But we wanted you to come back specifically on how Lee investigated it from a legal perspective.
Yeah.
And this was Stephen's idea. It was none.
Because Lee was a crime reporter, right?
Yes. Yep.
So
And
he
he
was
was attorney
coming
too,
at
right?
it. Yeah, so he was coming at it from that. He was a highly decorated one for the
Yeah.
Chicago Sun reporter for them. Yeah.
Yeah. And Blake, you recently went over to personal injury.
Yeah.
So you're used to
handful of
having
ye-
to do investigations. I remember you had to go to a bike shop and take photos once.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're like, I'll be late for dinner. I got to take photos at this bike shop that some woman tripped at.
Yeah. yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh. He's
investigation.
like, I can't tell you anything more, but I have to go take a photo of a bike shop. I'm like, oh, all right, I'll get you a drink. What do you want?
Yes.
But before we get into talking about this, I want to ask you the first question, right?
Sure.
Let's start off with some foundational stuff here. Can you talk about your mentality when going into an investigation legally?
Sure. Yeah. So
What's on your mind to do how you do it the best?
So generally, I'm always thinking about, first off, what law applies to a certain case. So, for example, if it's a rear end accident case, there are certain laws that apply in that situation. So, and I remember in law school, they would assign cases which, if you don't have the understanding that every case is either an example of a rule of law being either met or not met, or a different part, an element being exemplified, and that it fits into the bigger picture, then you're not going to see it. So really, from that point on, I've always kind of gravitated towards what's the law that applies in this situation. Meet with the client, get the facts, the general facts of the case or whatever, get our private investigators involved, that they're witnesses to take formal statements. And then, generally we have a process prior to filing the lawsuit where we're trying to settle it, and we're letting the person treat with experts, with doctors, and getting the records, and then trying to settle it. But if we don't, then that's when we file the lawsuit. But really that beginning phase of investigation. So research of the law, getting the facts, and trying to get proof in admissible form that you could use at a later date to prove your case is really, that's my kind of my thought process.
Now, did you, when reading the book or listening to the book, or both, did you like Lee's approach to how he investigated this?
I did.
And is there anything that you would change to his approach in any way?
I did. And it was funny because he spent a lot of time, which was great even for me and for a lot of non-lawyers that are listening to him, in each chapter kind of giving the overview of, okay, this is, in a criminal case, you have direct examination and explaining what it is, and then kind of tying that into why he was doing, his investigation. But yeah, I really liked his method of kind of identifying the key issues, and then thinking, because I go through this a lot too, where, you have a case where a person, as a lay person that's not an expert, can only testify to what the average person would say. So like, for example, intoxication, we've all been around drunk people, some more than others, but we could tell if someone's been drinking.
I
just
may have been a
because-
drunk person a couple times.
Stephen may.
It's very honest of you.
May or may not have.
Yeah.
or someone high on sugar, like,
None of us can experience
Ryan's
that.
That's
wedding.
all of us right now. Oh, and by wedding?
Yeah.
Just pure gallons of ice cream and pounds of cake in our
Yes,
face.
I remember that very clearly.
Yeah, so Lee seemed to, which is crucial because identifying, okay, this is an area of law where I need an expert in order to get admissible testimony at trial for the judge to say this person is qualified to give an opinion that something was done right or wrong in this situation. So it seemed like Lee was saying, all right, there's a question of, did Jesus die on the cross? All right, I got to talk to the
Source.
coroner or you know, like whatever the term was, because he's the utmost expert that can say, based on his injuries and my training, yeah, he definitely died. There's no way he didn't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, when he went to that, he got, he actually talked to a modern coroner. Yeah,
Yeah, I like that.
yeah.
Now, for those who didn't listen to the first podcast, let's go over some terms.
Sure.
Can we talk about evidence? And one of the big things that
Ryan, the definition of Willard.
we talked about was the importance of credibility, right? How does one go by to achieve credibility, and are there different levels of credibility, and how should that play into the evidence that we're given?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but it seemed like what I was gonna say Ray Strobel.
Lee, that's
it's-
his cousin.
Yeah. You know, it seemed like what Uncle Lee was trying to do.
I like it, Uncle Lee.
No, he was trying to say, okay, I'm going to talk to, here's an issue, and this expert is really qualified and really credible based on his credentials and what he's done. These are the skeptics. I'm going to look at their credentials, because really with, because this reminds me of expert testimony at trial. Like, I have a case where one expert is saying one thing about the case, the other one is saying the other.
Yeah.
And the judge is saying, okay, I can't just look at the papers and make a decision because there's a credibility issue. So that has to go to the jury. So I think what Lee was trying to do was establish these people's credentials first, to say this person has done everything, has seen everything, has PhD, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Versus the skeptic who maybe isn't as qualified to, you know, and is not as credible.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So, like someone like, for instance, like a Richard Dawkins, right? He's a biologist. He's a fantastic biologist to some degree, right? Some of his things I think he's biased when he gives an answer to. But then all of a sudden he starts speaking into an area of ethics, right? Or philosophy of ethics. And a lot of people will listen to him because he sounds intelligent and like, oh, he's got a PhD. Well, that's biology. I'm assuming when it comes to an expert testimony of ethics, you wouldn't find him admissible as an expert in the court of law, right? If you want someone who's an expert on ethics, you'd go to someone with the PhD in like ethical theory or something like that.
Yeah, you know, and that's interesting too, because like we see it on our cases all the time, and it always comes into my brain because I had a trial a few years ago where there was a question of whether or not our expert was qualified in the field that he was talking about. You know, he was an architect, and an issue came up regarding his qualifications. So, you know, there's a lot of situations out there where the court could say, okay, well, this is an orthopedic doctor, or this is just a primary doctor, so they're qualified to talk about ABCD, but not necessarily on a specialty of surgery or something like that.
That makes sense.
You know what I'm saying? So there has to be some sort of the court has to be convinced that what they're saying is backed by their education or experiences, you know?
Yeah, I like that.
Before you ask the next question, would you guys give, because there may be some listeners who have no idea what this book is even really about. Can you like give like a blurb of what this book, what Lee Strobel was trying to do, so they have a better concept of that?
Sure.
Or do you want us to do it?
Yeah. I feel like I'm hogging it. Do you care that?
No, I
I'm
like-
not
You're
talking
good.
too
That's why we
much?
brought you on.
We like your voice.
Soothing.
Yeah.
Soothing, smooth coffee. No, I'm just kidding. No, yeah. So, in my inartful way of explaining it, so from my understanding, Lee, Uncle Lee was an atheist, and I guess his wife was coming into Christianity, and he just really wanted to go on his journey of actually exploring what proof is out there.
I got the feel from it that
He was
almost
trying to disprove it.
Yeah, prove her wrong. Like,
Yeah.
you shouldn't believe this.
Yeah.
You know,
What's I was going to say, what's fascinating is there are many people throughout history who went into the research seeking to disprove the resurrection, only to
Josh
find
McDowell's another one.
Josh McDowell. There's
I
another
didn't know
guy
that.
back in the 1800s. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but the name of the book is Who Moved the Stone. It's an incredible book, but he had a similar story. He sought out to disprove the resurrection only in his research to come to believe in Jesus and write this book on defending it. Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, and it seems like, and I forget what the term is. I think it's I think it's conformatory bias or something, where like
Yeah.
you go into a situation and you have your conclusion, and then your biases are basically looking for evidence that supports it. So almost like if you're a right or left wing, whatever you are, you're going to
Cognitive
watch.
dissonance.
Yeah.
Is at the same
So
time.
how much does that play into a court scenario? I mean, like, I'm assuming, like, as an attorney, right? How do you check yourself on that, right? Because you're giving a client's giving you a check, or maybe he gives you a check and you have to chase him down later. Let's not get into that. But
Yeah.
you have a duty, your best duty, to defend him to whatever degree that means. How do you then stop the bias? Like, if all of a sudden you're convinced that he murdered this person, like, what do? You go like, oh man, I examined it. Yo, judge, he's guilty.
Well, you know,
You're like, what a terrible attorney.
yeah. I mean, I don't do a ton of criminal work, but I know that a common answer that I've seen to that is more, like with the most recent activities with the public defender with the Topps case or whatever. It's. I think what I've heard from a lot of defense attorneys that handle these high profile cases is that it's more just defending the process of the Constitution, and making sure that if they're gonna convict somebody or try somebody, that it's done properly, so that in the next scenario, if it's a misaccusation or whatever, that it's done properly. So you can obviously, you can never lie. You always have to be truthful 1,000%.
Right.
But I think that's the defense, is like, I'm hired. This is my goal, advocating for this person who can't advocate for themselves. I want to make sure that the right process happens and just protect the process.
Yeah, and I don't think you can ever erase biases, right?
No.
But
I don't think you can.
I also don't think having a bias is necessarily wrong. Because I always talk to someone like, say, for instance, that Christianity is true, right? We all believe it's to be true. Say it is true, right? And you want someone to convince this other person. You're going to want the person that believes it to be true to go into that scenario first, because they have a bias towards what is actually justified and warranted. So you want that person. So I don't think biases are necessarily wrong or evil.
No.
I think they just have to be appropriate.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the.
Yeah, and I believe as a pastor that if you're really searching for truth in its in its purest form,
Yeah.
the Holy Spirit has the ability to reach past those biases and knock you over the head with what's really true.
You also want a math teacher teaching math,
Right.
He's biased towards knowing how to do math well.
Yeah.
Like, I think that would be.
I have a bias.
I want Blake
towards-
to be my lawyer because he's biased towards doing law well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, no offense, Stephen. I don't want you to be my lawyer.
No.
Right. Yeah. Well, one thing I'm curious to know from you, Blake, based on your reading of the book, what are some pieces of evidence that he presented that you found most compelling? Like you talked about, the witnesses being credible. What's some of the evidence that those witnesses brought forth that you found to be compelling?
Well, I think what I didn't realize, and this kind of ties in when you were saying that it triggered this in me, was that I didn't realize, so just for a quick background, I was raised Catholic, so did all the confirmation, First Communion, all that stuff. And then, I was always, I believe in God, but not really, we didn't really practice it a ton. And then I met my wife, Stella, she's Greek Orthodox.
Okay.
Which, I didn't have to convert to that to get married in the church, but just because our family didn't really practice as much, just to kind of make sure the family's unified or whatever. So I was confirmed Orthodox Christian, which is very similar.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that the Bible is really more of a history book than made up stories. And I don't understand why, Ryan and I have had these conversations. Why don't churches give this book out, or at least talk about the evidence? Because I think a lot more people would be persuaded to say, this isn't just a person preaching it. This is based on manuscripts and documentation, and it's actually witness testimony.
Yes.
And I don't understand that, because growing up, proof was never discussed. And I know that Uncle Lee. No, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I like it.
I know that Lee said, a lot of, I don't know if it was his guess that churches don't want to talk about that because they want people to have faith, but he was saying it strengthens your faith if you have more proof that it's true. Yeah. So why are you not, like you have your, you have your head in a box and you're not willing to look at stuff. But I just know if I was younger and even now where I'm always reading stuff and trying to investigate, if I heard the proof, I would be more willing to come to the table. So I don't understand it. What do you, from your experiences, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I fully agree. I don't think the church in the West, at least, I don't think we've done a good job of trying to give people the evidence. Even from a pastor's perspective, a lot of sermons were geared towards touching people's emotions, their heart, rather than their head. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you need to divorce those two things. I think you could do both.
Absolutely.
I think pastors should do both. And I'm a huge fan of looking deep into the letter. What's the historical context of the book that's being written? What is the genre of the book that's being written? And that's the other thing that's compelling to me when it comes to the scriptures, is that this isn't just a book that is one genre. It's multiple genres of literature, all compiled together, all pointing to the same thing, the same truth, which is Jesus. So I think it's important that pastors and church leaders do a better job of not only engaging the heart but also engaging the head in the people they're communicating to. I think we've emphasized one to the neglect of the other. So
yeah, the evidence is really overwhelming. Even for like the New Testament, one of the things Lee does is talk about the manuscript evidence. And I don't have the exact numbers, but I believe it's like something like 5,000 something manuscripts, and that doesn't include first century early church fathers who you put all of their quoting of scripture. You have another entire copy of the New Testament. Yeah, and I don't even think he even mentioned that, but that's another factor. But we have. He talked about the Iliad, which is the next closest amount of manuscripts. I think it's 70 versus like thousands, and nobody criticizes, says, we can't trust the Iliad. It's nobody says that. So the amount of manuscript evidence we have is overwhelming, and like you said, Blake, people need to hear that because they're being told all the time, it's just a book that people threw together, and and it's changed so much over time. Meanwhile, we have really early manuscripts, and it's easy for us to tell what the original said based on comparing all the different options. People need to hear that because it does strengthen your faith. Yeah. It does.
Is there anything else that stuck out? That let's say from you growing up, where you were like, "Oh wow, why did I get taught this type of thing?"
Yeah, I mean, trying to think. The other thing was just how it was documented shortly after. I think he said it was I don't know if it was within a generation or it was like 50 years later, as opposed to some of these books where it's like hundreds of years after the event that happened to when it was documented. Mm-hmm. So
it was in the same generation.
Yeah.
And I know that in law, which I think we talked about at the last podcast, there's something called the business records exception to the hearsay rule, and it basically means that if there's a record made in someone's business and it was made shortly after, so if it was like a transaction or whatever, and it was documented shortly after it happened by someone with knowledge of the business, and it could come into evidence without actually calling in the person that made it. Okay. So, there's value in, and even if I get a phone call from clients now, I'll shoot an email to my paralegal, be like, this person called, this is what we talked about, so that there's a contemporaneous document that links it up, because I think there's a lot of value in that of this was a witness and documented it. Yeah, so that and I think
and you would be considered an expert because you're the lawyer who documented the conversation.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah, and it seems like just how all these witnesses had nothing to gain, really. And
over 500 witnesses of the resurrected Christ.
And, they had everything to lose, and that was a big thing to say. And he's kind of checking their credibility, saying like, okay, are they, could they have made money or something by saying this? And that goes to credibility.
Yeah. It talks about the women having to pay and afford the disciples' living because of how much money they didn't make
Right.
from this.
Yeah, and just the fact that if it was a farce, why would you choose women as the first witnesses?
Yes.
Because at that time,
Their testimony
they
was
didn't
not
count.
credible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Criteria
if,
of embarrassment.
And if the disciples were going to fabricate a story, they would have placed themselves as the hero, and they wouldn't have told a story about their master dying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the details of the gospel story alone are, I believe, compelling evidence.
The listeners can't see this, but Blake has a 6-inch stack.
It's
I'm slightly
it's
exaggerating,
impressive.
but not by much.
You don't have a manuscript that thick every Sunday when you preach. Stephen?
No, I'm pretty sure I get ran out of the church.
Yeah,
if they saw me come up with notes that thick.
No, it's weird because so basically I try to put my thoughts in categories, and then I just do it real big, so I'm not. Hey,
Bradley just walked in.
Bradley.
How's it going?
Hey, Bradley.
He was trying to be subtle.
I like the goatee.
Yeah.
Except that the hinges need oil. You've been here
Oh.
for 10 minutes?
Both of you, and you wouldn't answer your phones.
Oh, I'm literally, nothing came across. All right, Blake, let's get back to the questions.
Oh, so we were talking about.
I was going to ask you a question.
Oh yeah, please.
Oh,
please.
Steven, do you have one?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Please.
So, yeah, that hearsay was, you talked about that at the baptism, a little bit about that hearsay
Oh,
comment,
yeah.
which is really, because we asked last time, can you tell us more about the hearsay thing? And you're like, well, I got to look into it a little bit more about the New Testament's being hearsay because they're they're out of court type
Right.
of sayings. Can you repeat what you told me a few days ago about your examination of the law of hearsay?
Yeah, so I found a few different things. There's an exception to the hearsay rule called the ancient records rule, and I'm not sure the exact amount of time, but I think if it's a document that's 30 or more years old, and there's not anyone that's available to give the foundation to say that it is what they're saying it is, and there's proof that it's been passed down and it hasn't been altered, then in some cases it can go into evidence as proof of the truth. Because really, hearsay is an out-of-court statement, so not the person testifying being offered for its truth. So that's one of the exceptions. And then I found another thing which I brought here, which was the
Steven, it's another monster packet that he has put together. This is
With
great.
highlights and post-it notes.
Guys,
sticking
he's
out
at
of every-
Shaw and Shaw PC if you need a good attorney.
Yeah. By the
Yeah,
way,
so-
I've been in his office. I just want to sit in there and relax. It's like super nice.
He knows what. Look at this.
Okay, so there's something called the best evidence rule. So it basically means that if you want to prove the contents of a writing, you have to have the original document to do it. But there's an exception. And that exception is if the you could use a copy if the original is missing, and it says production of the original writing, recorded, or photograph is excused when all originals are lost or destroyed unless the proponent caused or procured their loss or destruction in bad faith.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I think those are the two big things I saw.
That's really interesting because I want to say this then. Do you know what doesn't make the exception? If you study the history, the Quran.
Yeah.
Because they got
actually
together.
destroyed all the.
They got together because there's a handful of different copies with different things according to the historical tradition, and they got together and they decided what copy they wanted, and
Destroyed
they
the rest.
literally put it in a pile and destroyed the rest of them.
Huh.
So that wouldn't even fall within the exception of the rule because they were the proponents who actually
who destroyed it.
who destroyed it. That's interesting. That's really
They
fascinating.
intentionally destroyed every variation. Yeah.
So let's talk about social media
Yeah.
for a second. How we're on the age of what is the rise of social media experts. From an attorney's point of view, what advice could you give to people on social media, specifically about like Christian things or like religious things? How should they view and take people speaking on social media?
Wait, can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
About
yeah.
your question?
Yeah.
I don't get how this. I'm seriously asking. How does this apply to?
Oh, because it applies to
Conversation.
one of my next questions.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
You're setting the groundwork.
Yeah, I'm setting the groundwork.
Okay.
Yeah, so we deal with this a lot, and it's funny. I'll give him a shout out. The gentleman who wrote this evidence book, Tim Tippins, he's great.
Tim Tippins.
Tim Tippins,
Great name.
He's an expert in matrimonial law and in other areas, but he always says in these divorce cases, he said, which is true. Like we see it all the time. He says, okay, the clients are coming to the lawyer who is the expert who does it for advice. But then he said they have their secret advisors, the people at the bowling alley and the barber shop.
Yeah.
And they're saying, oh, well, my case, I had this and I got this. It's like, no, it's a completely different case. And this is my question too, which I know that lawyers have a bad rap. I would never go into a doctor's office and try to operate on my own knee or say, I don't trust what, I mean, I guess people do get second opinions, but if you have no reason to question it, why are you're not the expert. Why are you going to Sally at the barber shop?
Right.
Go to your lawyer who is the expert. So
You
I
go to
think,
Sally too?
yeah. So on Facebook and stuff, I mean, it's one thing if it's Lee Strobel putting the information out there, but if it's just some random guy, you got to somehow qualify and make sure that they're qualified to give an opinion.
Right. Because that goes into my thought of what Lee did, Uncle Lee did.
Yeah.
He went to the top tier experts and didn't go to someone on Facebook that's saying, hey, look what I understood. Why, we understand why it's important to go to expert, but when we talk to people in the church, they misunderstand what I think we understand as expertise. They go to their brother who has a bachelor's in ministry. And these guys are giving these arguments that maybe might be progressive, might be whatever is the case. Can you give us an understanding of what Lee understood, what he meant by going to experts? And what I mean by that is not everyone with a degree necessarily is an expert, right? So
Yeah.
what was Lee's criteria when he sought this information out?
He seemed to.
And what would be your criteria? Say someone when you just want to go to any, like you said, you had to go to a specified doctor, but would you go to a doctor that just became specified?
Yeah, and it's interesting too because if you can establish that an expert is qualified, meaning they know more than the average person, whether it be through education or just experience, like the one example that is given is like, oh yeah, the person has been on the stock market for 40 years selling this stock, so they might not have a degree, but they have all the experience and stuff. And I would say the experience is probably worth more in some circumstances. But yeah, I mean, he's that goes to the weight of what you're going to give to it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because if it's someone that just started and they have no experience and they're just basing it off of a book or their degree, then you should probably think twice and get a second opinion as to someone that handles that has handled that more often.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah.
One time in the book he was addressing the mass hallucination theory, for example, and so he went. So he went to a really famous psychologist professor, and one of the things I noticed about is because he was an atheist, like we said, trying to disprove it, but he was an honest atheist. So I noticed he went to experts that he knew that woman was an atheist as well. And remember, he went to her, and I think he went to people that he knew would not just tell him what he wanted to hear. You know what I'm saying?
How important is it to get both sides?
Yeah, it's our tendency to go to people that we know will tell us what we want to hear.
Yeah.
That will, like you said, go along with our cognitive dissonance.
Confirmation bias, is that?
Yeah, the confirmation bias thing. But he went to that lady, and the lady's like, no, you can't. It's impossible for even more than one person to have the exact same hallucination. That does not happen. And she was honest with him about that. So that's one thing I noticed is he went to witnesses experts that he knew would be honest.
Yeah, and he really went at him too with, almost in a cross-examination way of, and that's kind of how you and it's, like this Johnny Depp trial is just crazy.
My goodness.
But I know that the one thing that kind of went viral was when the attorney called the drink the mega pint or whatever, and it was this big joke, and they're kind of laughing at the attorney, but they don't realize that they had depositions, which is questioning prior to trial, where they asked all these people questions. So then when you kind of know what their story is and what they're going to say, so that when you cross-examine them, you're using their own words, so that if they go back at it, you're saying, oh, well, do you remember I asked you this 2 years ago, and this is exactly what you said?
Yeah.
So that reminds me of that. I forget where I was going with that. But
That's all right.
oh wait,
By the way, fun fact. I was a private investigator for 6 years in Pittsburgh
oh
before I
yes,
became a pastor. Yeah,
oh,
child custody and infidelity.
you were the guy from
Cheaters.
Yeah. No, oh yeah, no. So I remember where I was going. Is that they were he did his research and he kind of knew where they were coming at, and he just went at him hardcore, and he was like, "Whoa, okay, what's your response?" Like, I know that you do that a lot in debates, where you almost follow it with a question as opposed to just blabbering crap out. Sorry.
Yeah. You mean he would come at he would ask the lady something, and she would say, and he went, well, what about this? And would try to punch holes in what she was saying, but they would keep answering him, and then he.
Yeah, and I want to say too, I watched there's a movie on
Oh, yeah.
on this on YouTube, and I called Ryan. Number one, it put my son to sleep in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And
What, the Case for Christ movie?
yeah, it's on YouTube.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And did you think it was so far dummied down? And there was
Yeah, they had to for a movie.
yeah, and
There was so much time, but yeah, it
Yeah,
was
and-
definitely simplified.
there's no way that wait, did that actually happen? In the opening scene, the daughter's like choking on a gumball or something, and then a woman runs in and saves her, and
I don't
and
know
then
if that really happened.
and then that woman is the reason why the wife didn't become an atheist, and then just because she saved the child choking.
I don't know. Does
I
anybody
don't know.
that
That's a good question.
I don't know if that story's credible or not. I remember the scene. I remember watching the movie.
And
Do you guys think it's better than God's Not Dead?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. 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 Every God's Not Dead movie was terrible.
It's worse and worse.
Oh, it progressively worse.
do you know too if that's true? Where obviously the movie's going to emphasize I don't want to say sexy storyline of the husband wife fighting stuff.
Yeah.
Did it get that hot where they weren't talking to each other and stuff, or was it kind of?
Maybe.
Do you know if that's legit or if that was just for the movie?
I don't know offhand.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't mention that in the book.
Yeah.
As far as I could tell.
That was the soul. That seemed to be the whole focus of the film was this is destroying my marriage and all this stuff. And then at the end, it's and they make up.
Well, what I will say is this: that when a husband or a wife comes to faith and the other one doesn't, it creates a lot of tension in the marriage. So even if it didn't happen exactly like that, some variation of that story, I'm sure, was transpiring. Because I know somebody personally who came to faith, came to Christ, started getting more active in his church, volunteering and getting involved in ministry, and his wife went the total opposite direction, and they ended up divorced. It was the opposite story of what happened in that movie. So
I just found it online. Alfie, but her name wasn't really Alfie. There was their neighbor and kept inviting his wife to church over and over again. She finally went, and it was Willow Creek Church, and she was shocked by the contemporary music and the gospel and stuff like that. And so she started going. And yes, Lee was an alcoholic. That was true, and he wanted to disprove not an alcoholic, but heavy alcohol drinker.
Yeah.
And wanted to disprove, and went out to save his wife from the mythical belief of Christianity.
Interesting.
that didn't work out for him, huh?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I always just when I was watching that scene, I was like, no, I didn't want the child to choke on the gumball because I just had the baby, and I'm like, oh no.
You were a personal injury lawyer. You were like, oh, I wonder if I have
Blake-
a case here.
Blake
He was
was-
going to make one of his Instagram videos with what we have here. His videos are addictive, by the way.
Are you
They're
serious?
fun to watch.
they
They really are.
Blake was
Really?
trying to
Yeah,
find
thank you.
Lee's number on the internet to
Yeah.
call him and be like, I can help.
You pick really good videos to
Thank
put on your
you.
video. It's a lot of fun.
I really appreciate that because
Where can our listeners find your addictive Instagram videos?
you can find me at Blake BLAK Zaccanino ZACCAGNINO at
I love how you just looked at me to make sure you spelled your name right.
Blake Zach Zaccanino.
Zaccanino?
Yeah. So I'm on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and I worry that I'm becoming that guy who, you know how like you see people post, it's like I don't know if like Amway, like the multi-level marketing team, like buy this supplement, check it out, I'm working out here, and they're like drinking the vitamins and stuff and like that. I don't want to be that guy.
Amway's gone, so
yeah.
hopefully you don't become them.
That's funny.
Yeah, so I don't want to be that guy doing that. But yeah, it's
So here's a question. Everything that you know that you've heard from these scholars in the book, if you were in the jury, I should say,
Yep.
would you look at them and be like they're lying?
who
The disciples. If the disciples sat in the dock and all of a sudden they're cross witnessing and all these things, would you go like, man, I think they're telling the truth?
Yeah, I mean, because like we were saying, you got to ask.
question.
You got to ask yourself: did they have anything to gain from this? No.
Right.
And then it seems like the biggest thing is the resurrection, right? That's the biggest thing. So it seems like for that coroner guy saying he definitely died, and if he didn't die, he would be in really rough shape. So no one would be like,
For 3 days later to be like, this is the perfect risen. He'd be like, oh, guys.
Yeah. And like all those people that saw him, and like you said, the females who they weren't wrong, they were not respected back then. And if they really had to check to make sure that it was credible, right? And that would be the only reason that they would include them, or what was it like?
Yeah, they didn't even count legally as witnesses back then.
No,
at
it's
all.
in the apologetic world. It's called the criteria of embarrassment, where if you were going to put something really embarrassing about yourself, which is they were adverse to doing that in ancient documents. But if all of a sudden you added something that really made you look like you're an idiot or really stupid or whatnot, they'd be like, "Oh my goodness, that's probably more credible than not," because they don't do that.
You mean like the putting the women?
Putting the women in, yeah, putting that the men couldn't afford their own lives and the women had to do these certain things. Like there's a lot of like their rabbi died, and then they hid because they thought they were coming after him because they didn't believe or understand what he was saying. Like that's embarrassing. Like you were with him for 3 years and you didn't understand what the heck he was teaching you for 3 years.
It's embarrassing for the disciples because they all fled when
right.
Jesus died.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't fabricate a story where they were not the heroes.
Yeah, and just how so many people saw him after that, where it wasn't just one person; it was a lot of people that independently, right?
Yeah.
Saw him
over
after.
500.
And
It's in Acts of 400 people at one time were with him.
Yeah.
And I liked what. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
I liked what he said too. On like, you could never. I mean, we've talked about this. Okay, you could be sure that if you jump off this table, you're going to go to the ground. But but he was saying like,
I'll catch you, Blake.
or dip me in some olive oil. Or
Oh
something.
yeah, his child just had a baptism
Okay.
because the Greek Orthodox.
Yep.
And
What do they dunk them under olive oil?
yeah,
There's a video of
basically,
it.
yeah. There's a video of it, and it's funny. So Leonard, the baby, didn't cry, didn't do anything, and like he went in, and I turned to my wife Sarah. I'm like, do you know what? Do you know how I know that's Blake's baby? Because if I did that to Blake right now, he would also like it.
Yeah.
Dude, my son, he's 10 months old. He absolutely loves being in the water. He would. I think he would just as much enjoy being in olive oil.
And it's also
Absolutely.
Blake because when they went to change him out of the wet clothes, he soiled himself. So that's also Blake's kid.
And most of the time when I do that, it's Ryan's fault because he feeds me this concoction of dessert of like ice cream, 4 different kinds,
Cookies.
multiple coffees, a pound of creamer,
Yeah.
and then it's just a mass explosion. And then it's a massive
We
explosion.
played that sound earlier, right when we announced that Blake is our guest on the podcast.
We just pressed buttons.
Yeah, I pressed buttons. I didn't know what they did.
So
How dare you?
exactly. So here's one of my here's kind of my last question I have. If you were presented this information, right? Pretend it's not a book. Pretend it's like all the facts and data. Here's your depositions, and you as an attorney You're going to go, I'm going to let you take the defense, or I'm going to let you take the what's the other term?
Prosecution.
Prosecution. And the question is, did Jesus rise from the dead? And you have your opportunity to choose one side to argue. What side are you joining?
I would join the Jesus side because it seems like there's more evidence that I could use at a trial, because we're always talking with, like, for example, I have this one case where our client died unrelated to the accident. And it's like, we're talking to the family and we're like, we have to think about how are we going to get this information and evidence without the person there.
Yeah.
So you're always having that conversation of, am I going to be able to prove this case?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with what you're saying of, if I have all this evidence that could be in admissible form, it's not necessarily, it's more so what can you prove and what can you get in front of the court to see? Because only evidence that's admissible is seen,
Right, exactly. So Blake would defend that Jesus rose from the dead side. Granted, listeners, I believe, if I know Blake, he already believes this.
Yeah.
So I'm not convincing him when it comes to this.
Right.
It's just from a lawyer's perspective, given the data that he's researched, he'd go, "Oh yeah, I wouldn't want to try to argue against that. It'd be much more difficult."
Yeah, and to just look at the minimal facts that even secular historians, biblical historians, would agree with Christian ones, like the minimal facts of the fact that pretty much every historian believes there's an empty tomb.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone believes Jesus' half-brother James came to believe in Jesus. And if there's anyone harder to convince, it's your own brother that you're
Who doesn't believe
God
you.
in the flesh, right? Who's going to believe that of their sibling? And then, the fact that Paul, who persecuted Christians, had an encounter with the risen Christ.
Yeah.
And he went
Paul-
on to write 2/3 of the New
Yeah,
Testament.
Paul literally changed his mind.
Yes.
What's the best explanation for it?
One of the things that's struck me in is I can't remember the exact numbers, but I believe there's only like 1 or 2 historic records of Alexander the Great at all that he ever existed, and nobody is like, that's just myth,
Yeah.
right? Have you heard anybody say Alexander's just myth? But the evidence for Jesus's his life, death, and resurrection, based on historic sources, is abundantly far beyond any existence that Alexander the Great even existed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to. A lot of times people just don't go into this with a fair mind.
Yeah. In the way how I do apologetics when I teach this is I try to get all the what is called the bedrock historical facts, like Mike talked about, and I think there's a ton of them.
Yeah.
And I have this kind of layer. I'm picturing me like looking at like this tier, right? And on this top layer, it's all the bedrock historical facts that we can all sort of agree on. And then the second tier are filters, like think of like spaghetti strainers, and I call these like hypotheses. And each filter is a hypothesis. And you have alien, you have the swoon theory. We have all of these different theories that try to explain all of the facts that are bedrock. And then one of the hypotheses, one of the strainers, is that Jesus actually rose from the dead.
Yeah.
And what I try to do is to show, do you know what? This one strainer might answer 2 out of the 100 facts that we know. This strainer might do 20 out of the 100. But I argue that when you take the hypothesis of the strainer that rose from the dead, it can literally filter all of the historical bedrock facts that we have. And so as someone who wants to kind of play this game, I go, well, I'm going to believe that the resurrection hypothesis is going to be true versus all the other ones because it filters all of the data that we can understand.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And nobody was there, so it's the only way to do it is to look at the evidence. And you know what? We've talked about this too. I have a problem. It seems like people these days, just in general, and I see this a lot too with what I do. It seems like no one really thinks about things. It seems to just be like,
Quite
okay,
true.
I'm gonna make a decision. Period. Okay. It's like the it's the Will Ferrell thing when he's doing the debate. He's like, I blacked out, and then he doesn't know like what happened. Where it's like when I do something, I try to take the Uncle Lee approach where it's
Yeah.
you got this is the problem. I got to print all this stuff out, all this research out, research that, and then come to your conclusion, as opposed to, I don't like that idea, and not just following the evidence, which is what Lee said the whole time.
Well, you also want to be credible as an investigator.
yeah.
And I'm sure Blake will tell you that there are some lawyers that you probably don't have high credibility for because of kind of the work that they do. And if Lee just went to non-experts on the topic and just got their opinion and made a decision off that, we'd go like, well, your credibility. I mean, that would affect his entire work too.
Yeah.
Because if he's going to do this, he better do it right, because then he's writing for a newspaper as well to print this thing. So
We all have to war against the what do you call confirmation bias?
Yeah.
Or cognitive dissonance is another thing. We have to war against that in ourselves, because that is our tendency, because it's easier, right?
Yeah.
It's easier just to look for something that supports you. So like, I mean, there's, I'm a political conservative. That's no mystery to anybody in this group, but like I see in my sphere of influence, people say that the political conservatives are just as bad as liberals on just grabbing on. That fits my narrative, and I'm like,
for sure.
And I'll look at it and I'll be like, I'll point out to them, did you actually read that? It doesn't say that at all.
Yeah.
Because it's easy. It's the easier thing to do is to not, like Ryan, you just said, be how do you say it? Credible researcher.
Yeah.
You have to, like, it's not just believe something because it's what you want to hear.
or you don't read two books and been like, I'm the greatest scholar on this topic ever to live.
So
When you have people who wrote 50 books on the topic. Wrote.
on that matter, the fact that, because you read this as somebody who's never read this before, but how the credibility of Lee going in as an atheist, does that, and if this was a modern court, like, does the fact that somebody is an investigator or even a witness, an investigator or an expert that has the opposing view, does that offer greater weight in court?
Good question.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Like they're like, I disagree, but
So you're asking
he
if
has a point.
does Lee's credibility that he came to a different answer because he had a different worldview
Because
prior to it?
he started
He
with
started opposition.
trying to disprove it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, Mike's leaving, everyone.
see you later.
Don't turn off the podcast. We're still here. Just because Mike
I
left.
can edit this out.
Bradley's going to edit Mike leaving.
Yeah, and I know that in law, it rarely happens where you have an expert that's a hired gun. So very rarely are you gonna present evidence to them that's gonna persuade. But I've seen situations where you say, okay, well, assuming this is true, would you have a different opinion? Or assuming, I have depositions coming up in this one case where I'm going to be talking to this expert and I'm be asking, what did you look at? What did you read? Did you look at this? What's significance of this or whatever? So like, if you can show them things and the jury is persuaded by whatever the facts are, and I mean, and I'm sure it has happened where a lawyer is cross-examining an expert and walks them down the road, question by question, and then they flip. Oh yeah, that would be huge because they're hired to give an opinion in favor of one person. So if you show them the way and they change, that's huge.
Yeah. That's great. So Blake, what time are we at?
53.
53. So Blake, tell us a little bit more about yourself, where our listeners can get a hold of you and watch you and stalk you.
Yeah. If they need an ambulance chaser, I mean
You can reach out to me on my social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Blake Zaccagnino, ZACCAGNINO. And my email B, and then my last name Zaccagnino at shawlawpc.com. Another thing that, from what you said makes me was making me think was the statement that I think a lot of people just automatically disagreed with the Bible or didn't consider it true just because there was a religious and historical parts
interesting.
of it.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on that? Or understanding of
so
that?
my fundamental question is, even if it has a religious aspect to it, the question is, are the propositions that they're trying to claim as true? So it can have any religious component it wants, but the question is, are they true to what reality is and is going to be?
there is truth in the Quran.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
like Muhammad actually lived, even if it has a religious back component to it. You can still find some true things that he said and he experienced to it. But the major fundamental claims that would consider it like a doctrine, we would look at and go like, well, these are false. But some of his ethereal type of secondary or third tier, we would go, okay, well, that might be true that he went here. Like, who cares? So, you know what I mean? But I think because it has a religious component, doesn't necessarily play a factor that it is true in reality.
Does
that make sense?
Yeah.
Mike?
What's the reason for that? Is it just that people will automatically discount it because they'll say, "Oh, this is a religious writing, so it's not true automatically."
Yeah, I think the problem at least I have experienced, like on college campuses, is people come in sort of with their worldview already, right? And so when someone says like, I have a worldview of naturalism, and they don't tell you that, but you can kind of assume it in their arguments. That means there is no spiritual realm. There is nothing but created matter, electrons, neutrons, matter, everything bumping into each other. That's all that exists. There's no other realms. There's nothing. But then as soon as you bring in a spiritual idea, they're immediately going to go, well, I'm assuming that's false and it's not true to reality. It might have some other, like, maybe it's a metaphor or an allegory. So I think the problem is when someone comes in already stating spiritual facts cannot exist is the problem.
So they think the scripture is not credible because it has a spiritual.
Yes, it's saying
Roots,
God created the universe, but all that exists ever was the universe. And there's no spiritual realm. There's no angels. There's no demons. There's no God, stuff like that.
Yeah,
but they come in with that conclusion
The
already.
problem is that they already have their minds made up.
Yeah, they come in with a conclusion and they filter everything through that conclusion.
Yeah.
But if you go through that's why I think it goes to what you said, that Lees is more credible because that's what he believed. He was a naturalist, and now he completely flipped the script on what his belief is. But if you go in going like, okay, it's possible that both can be true. Let's examine the data. And then I think that's when you are open to being wrong. And I think that's a big problem with our culture. They're not open to being wrong.
So, yeah, well, to add off to what you're saying too is, like, if you go into a debate, for example, you go in with an open mind, correct? Like your primary objective is to get your point across, but you do come in with an open mind to have your mind changed.
At least you should.
You should,
right?
Yeah.
But the problem is, if you come in with your mind already closed, you're just causing an argument. You're not. There's nothing productive going on with that conversation.
Right.
And so, keeping an open mind to things, no matter how crazy or not crazy they may seem to you, is
Good,
important
Bradley, yeah.
because it opens up doors, and that's how we learn as a culture and as people, is by having our minds changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes me think of. I mean, on this
Hiccup.
this recent case I'm handling, there's an aspect of it that I'm not really an expert in, and I think so. I'm reaching out to another attorney that's going to help out, that is an expert in that certain field, that can come in and weigh in on it, because I don't want to give just because I'm, I don't want to be, because there's some people, building on what you said, that are, oh, well, I'm the almighty and I'm always
Their
smart.
pride gets in the way.
Yeah, and I know everything, and it doesn't matter if I'm unsure. I'm gonna fake it till you make it, sort of thing. But that's kind of dangerous. I think you should always be able to admit, I'm not an expert in this. Get someone on board that can weigh in and give you assistance, because, and I just realized this in the last few months, is that's a part of being a good attorney as well. And I'm sure being a good at whatever you do. I mean, if you're preaching or lecturing on something,
Know your limitations.
you're not afraid to call
Yeah.
somebody in that maybe knows more, or have a guest speaker. You know what I mean?
100%. Because how bad would you be? How bad would it be for your client if you go, I'm an expert doctor, I'm an expert physicist, I'll handle it. As a client, I'd be like, you're not representing me well,
Yeah.
because you're not, and you're not staying in your lane. Go call someone.
That kind of ruins your credibility
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah, and then at the end of the day, years late, because we're constantly thinking of cover our butts on everything and writing and making sure that we've, like you said, no stone being unturned.
Yeah.
Because things can come back at you. And I just think knowing that people have these problems and you want to give it your all, just because if it was your brother or your friend or whatever, you want to do the right thing. And
could you imagine that if you? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I like what you just said there. It's almost as if like you should picture your mother is your client every time. Because if you're not giving your hard work for this person, you know what I mean? Like some people hopefully wouldn't do more work for their mother than they would for me, even though unfortunately it might be the case.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's more.
Unless you hate your mother, then like that.
Yeah, and it's
pick somebody else.
Yeah, then pick someone else.
Before we close, I definitely want to know his answer to that last question you wrote, Ryan.
What was it?
Ryan wrote these questions. As a lawyer in court, because this sums up everything we're talking about before we run out of time. I think this is great. As a lawyer in court, would the evidence and arguments that Jesus rose from the dead that you read in the Case for Christ be good and credible?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I do. I mean, I think, like I was saying, I would want to be on the side where I had the most proof that I could use and that I can actually be, and
it certainly wouldn't be insane or like silly. There's enough evidence where it's a credible, like legitimate claim.
Yeah. It has a seat at the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as far as biases too, I mean, so jury selection, that's what we're aimed at. Because you're never gonna flip someone. Because wait, have you guys been to jury selection? Anyone here?
No, I've gotten out of jury.
I've gotten out of all of them too.
Yeah. So basically,
You gone?
I haven't been called, thankfully.
Your number's coming.
I know.
yeah. So basically, you show up and then you're called into this room, and the attorneys are at the front, and first they get out. Okay, does anybody know us? Does anybody know the people involved? They get really very little information about the case. And then you get into the detail, and the goal is to really get people talking, because you get a certain amount of challenges that are you get unlimited cause challenges, meaning like this person is biased on this issue, so they can't be fair, or this person is sick and they can't sit for long periods of time, so I don't think they could be fair. But then there's preemptory challenges, which means like you can get rid of someone for pretty much every reason except for like racial reasons or anything. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And
like Whitey.
yeah, it's bad. But like you're getting at their biases and asking broad questions, and you want to get them talking to say, for example, if this was a lease situation, some people have a belief on this issue A, and they feel this way. Other people feel that way. Some people have an idea that's in the middle. Where do you fit and why? And it's just getting at their biases to try to get rid of people who aren't willing to be fair and listen to your side. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah. It's interesting.
But perfect. So reach out to
Actually, can I
ask
one question for Blake
Please.
before we finish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna have Steven sign us out because.
Oh gosh, I am terrible.
Yes.
No, I can do it. I did a
Bradley
good,
should do it.
I did a good job last time.
Oh, okay. I was just saying because he hasn't been. Here
I did a
forever.
good job last time.
Yeah, but you're always here.
I know, but Steven,
I don't know what I'm doing.
I did a good job.
That's what's so great.
Blake, so back to your videos that you make, because I think they are some of the funniest things.
Thank you.
Right?
I just have a question, and how do you choose what to react to? Because sometimes it's like a legitimate case. It's like, oh, I was walking down the stairs and the stair broke and I fell down the stairs.
And there were some crazy ones he reacted
And then
to.
there's another one where there's like a drunk girl who just tries to do a backflip and lands on her face. Like, what?
And Blake keeps a straight face when
And
he reacts
Blake
to
keeps
him.
a straight
Yeah.
face
He's like,
and gives
in
an
court,
honest.
in court, this would not, because the woman did a backflip on her own volition and landed. He like keeps a straight face when he says it.
How do
I'd
you
be like-
how do you pick them? Like, do you just like Google search like stupid videos of people?
No, so basically I just mindlessly search on TikTok and all. And that app, I kind of figured it out where in the beginning I was doing a bunch of random stuff and I wasn't really getting a lot of views. But that side-by-side thing I'm doing is called duetting, where you can comment on a video. And so basically I look for videos that have a ton of views, and then also videos that hiccup. Videos that
It's contagious.
oh god, yeah, no, like videos that remind me of like a legal concept that I can explain, and then I just kind of hit on it. And some people don't really like, TikTok's a younger app, so these kids are like, oh, well, that had nothing to do with the video. I'm like, yeah, it reminded me of a concept. Like I've done a few where the MLB guy is like throwing 100, and you could see how like what it actually looks like, and then I'll relate that to like speeding or something, And it's more so to try to get as many views as possible. Okay. But yeah, it's fun. This is all fun. This is great. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Blake, for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, absolutely. So
we should do another book.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, the evidence that the man's a verdict. I'll take him a couple months to read.
That's funny. So Bradley, let's sign us out.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Where's the music? What the heck? I pushed the button.
Edit that out, yeah.
I totally pushed the button.
Don't edit it out. Leave it
I won't. I'm not going to. I'm too lazy. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you'd like to reach out to us and get in contact with us, you can email us at thecaffeinatedchristian706@gmail.com. You can also find us on our Facebook and Instagram page at The Caffeinated Christian Podcast. We are pretty active on those, so if you'd like to reach out there, you can let us know about different coffees or different topics we should try. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.
And the last thing I want to say is I get really frustrated when the food's ready and you're at a party and no one's eating. So I have a cue now where I go, dig in!
And
we're out.